Welcome back, guys. I appreciate you being here. Now, in today's video, I want to address a question that has been posed to me over and over again on Twitter and our Discord. Join the Discord, link in the description. Also, under the videos that I've done in the past, people saying, dude, you've never really addressed the Japan Air case. Are you scared of the Japan Air case? Is it ultimate disclosure? Probably not, but it is true that I've never done a video about this. I've addressed it various times on streams, but I'm aware that many people are not watching the streams. So in today's video, I will take my thoughts and research that I've done on this case and put it into a video, break it down for you guys. Let's see if we can debunk the famous Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628. Now, this incident, just to give you a bit of an overview, is famously a pilot sighting. The pilot who reported the sighting was Captain Kenju Terauchi. He was flying somewhere between Reykjavik and Anchorage, I believe, in his 747-200. Again, he's piloting the craft, and he reported two smaller craft and a mothership that was the size, twice the size, in fact, of an aircraft carrier, right? That's what he said. He said that he was then turning his plane, and these lights and this craft keep following him. So it's a wild case. It's a pilot. He should be somewhat of a trained observer, right? So let's look at this case. And before we get into it, I want to highlight that even UFO celebrities, like Dr. Stephen Greer, keep mentioning cases like this. Because as you will hear in a second, part of the story is that they captured radar data, and everyone captured it on radar. Let's see if it's true, but let's listen to what Dr. Stephen Greer had to say in this interview here, where he introduced this whistleblower. When was this? In March this year? I've never seen this guy before. Okay, I've done a separate video, I'll link it in the description, about this interview because it's freaking hilarious. It seems like there's a reason why this guy never reoccurred anywhere in the UFO bubble since then, at least not that I'm aware. Also funny, just on a side note, I just tried to find out like the name of him, right? I was like, it's got to be in the title, right? It's got to be, no, okay, it's not in the title. It must be in the description down here. They don't mention his name anywhere in the description. Not anywhere, like it's just not mentioned. I love this, by the way. It seems like he was erased from ufology, just like Bob Lazar's educational records were erased. Anyway, I'm not sure where I was going with this. But let's get into this, because here's Dr. Stephen Greer talking about this specific incident, the Japan Airlines cargo flight, and highly praising it. Let's listen to what he has to say.
You would want to really be bringing up.
Could you hand me the book, the hardcover, the other one?
So funny, because this interview, in my personal opinion, was a complete car crash, and you can just see the body language of Dr. Stephen Greer. He's not pleased. This is the very end of the interview, so the car has already crashed into the wall. Again, go watch my other video where I break this down in more detail.
All right, this is very famous airliner, 747 Heavy, Japan Airlines, flying the polar route from Paris to Tokyo. One of the best, most documented cases in history.
Yes.
This case happened in the 80s, and it was on radar. It was on board.
Yes.
It was on ground military radar. It was on ground FAA radar, and the object was the size of an aircraft carrier.
I think it's twice the size of an aircraft carrier. We'll fact check that.
In one sweep of the radar, could go from one direction to 180 degrees over, virtually teleported.
Damn.
Now, this case, that pilot, because it got reported, was put on desk duty by Japan Airlines until a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Haynes, who was with NASA, Ames Research Center, went over to Japan and said, no, this is real. And the guy, there's nothing wrong with him. But they actually penalized that pilot for reporting this. Now, interestingly, if you go into our briefing materials that we've given you.
Okay, cool. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Stephen Greer, summarizing this nicely for us, right? Like, there was radar data, they captured it on radar, and then the pilot, was put on desk duty because he got too close to the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, he uncovered too much, and so they put him on desk duty. Well, these are bold claims, Mr. Greer, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch this, 387,000, in fact, people, probably took it for granted and thought, wow, this is incredible, right? Wow, teleported, it was captured on radar, pilot saw it. Let's read up on it. Let's try to land this in the real world, okay? So, all you need to really do, because it's actually a great collection of links on there, and I know people are like, Wikipedia has an incredible article about this incident. That again gives reference to everything, like stuff is mentioned in, in the New York Times and in other sources, the Telegraph Herald, all the links are here, okay? So you can go there yourself. Don't say, oh, Wikipedia. It's like, no, Wikipedia is just links from somewhere else that you put together in one place. Sure, if you say, well, I don't trust the New York Times or with this reporting where they interviewed the pilot, then okay, fine. Then then we don't need to talk, right? Because we need to have some kind of platform that we base this on. So let's read what it says up here. So as mentioned, this allegedly happened on November 17th, 1986. It says, during the flight, Captain Kenju Terauchi reported seeing 3 objects described as 2 small ships and a mothership. The FAA in Anchorage only saw 1628, the flight, on their radar. 2 other nearby planes only saw flight 1628 and no other objects. So wait a second, I thought it's all on radar. Isn't it all on radar? Let's keep reading. News media of the time reported that Terauchi referred to the objects as 2 small ships and a mothership, and as 2 small ones and one twice the size of an aircraft carrier. Monkey got it right again. Greer got it incorrect. Twice the size. I mean, that's a big difference, right? Something the size of an aircraft carrier or twice the size of an aircraft carrier. That's like, it feels like that's a thing you can distinguish. After 6 minutes, Terauchi radioed the Anchorage Federal Aviation Administration, who advised him to take evasive action. They're like, he's either nuts or he's about to smash into something really unusual. Let's suggest him evasive maneuvers. So he's now doing evasive maneuvers in an effort, as he claims, to get away from this ship, right? Out of the way. It's probably somewhere in his path, and he's worried he might collide with it. So he is taking evasive action. Terauchi decreased altitude and turned the plane in a circle, but reported that the lights were still with the plane after the turns. Good God. Shocking, really. At the time, news media stated that the FAA reported seeing objects near the plane even after the evasive maneuver. So not the pilot Terauchi himself, but the FAA, again implying radar sightings. But upon later review, the military radar images were dismissed as clutter, and an object that showed up on the aviation agency's screens was thought to be a coincidental split image of the aircraft. Okay, so I mentioned this a million times before. My dad used to be a commercial pilot his whole life. Therefore, I know other pilots. Therefore, I met also people who work in air traffic control. A good friend of mine, he grew up, started in air traffic control. Now he's a pilot as well. Now, I spoke to these people, specifically to him, and he said these things. He says, like, if you're a trained air traffic controller, you know that mirror images can happen, and you are actually able to identify them. So images on radar can pop up. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's not impossible. And like they say here as well, they describe it as a coincidental split image of the aircraft, right? So again, this is not super common, but it happens. The problem is just most of us are not air traffic controllers, so we don't know this. So if someone says there was an unknown object on radar and then it zipped to the left, we tend to assume that's an unusual object. It can just be a mirror image, a glitch or something like that. Again, not often, but it happens. And also, Fairbanks FAA air controllers saw only flight 1628 on their radar screens. Okay, so at this point, I'm like, where's the radar data? I mean, Dr. Stephen Greer said it's tracked on ground radar, flight radar, plane, didn't he say this?
One of the best, most documented cases in history.
Yes.
This case happened in the 80s, and it was on radar. It was on board.
Yes.
It was on ground military radar.
I love the little moment there where he looks over to the pilot. He's like, it was on board radar, right? He's like, yes, it was. Was it? I don't think it was. I mean, judging from these other reports, it was initially, there was a blimp there and then they retracted it, but
it was on ground FAA radar, and the object was the size.
Yeah, so it's on all radars, when in fact, actually, it's not on all radars. So that's kind of funny there. And it seems like that this piece of information mainly stems from these 2 articles here, right? Like one is the Telegraph Herald and the other one is the Daily Record. I'm not aware of this. But anyway, so it seems like these newspapers basically reported, once he turned, they still tracked the object on radar. And people are like, wow. Actually, that seems to be not true if you read the context. But anyway, let's keep going. Terauchi reported that the objects followed the plane for 640 kilometers, which is 400 miles. 2 planes that were near flight 1628, so just geographically in the same vicinity, a U.S. airliner and a U.S. Air Force C-130 cargo plane, reported that they did not see any objects, either visually or on radar. Okay, so there are 2 other planes. Dude, we're talking about an object here that's twice the size of an aircraft carrier. You would see this from far away. It would be quite visually present, right? You know what I mean? So having two planes in the near vicinity, not seeing anything, also not great, okay? But yeah, this is the kind of information that we're leaving conveniently out of UFO documentaries and other, reports about these cases. Flight 1628 landed in Anchorage. The crew were debriefed, and FAA investigators determined that they were normal, professional, rational, and had no drug or alcohol involvement, okay? So they examined the crew, they did tests on them, and made sure, yeah, bro was not high, okay? Was not hallucinating, at least. Fair enough, I give him that. Now then, we're getting to this explanation part down here. And this talks about Philip J. Klass. I'm sure you're familiar with him, famous Aviation Week and Space Technology magazine editor, I believe. And he keeps popping up over and over again, right? He puts out reasonable theories for these somewhat unbelievable stories. So here it says, editor of this magazine and UFO investigator Philip J. Klass reported that the planets Jupiter and Mars were in the area that Terauchi said he saw the two lights, and although they would have been quite visible, he did not mention seeing them. So what he's saying is, he looked exactly in the direction where we had Jupiter and Mars, that, as he will say in a second, were very low above the horizon, so it seems like they're at the same altitude as you, so they're bright lights. Now, if there would have been two other aircraft next to it and one the size of an aircraft carrier, then maybe Terauchi would have said, I can see the craft and I can see Jupiter and Mars next to it. It's almost lining up. You can use it as a navigational tool, right? You can say, we're here, Jupiter and Mars there. They are on the right side of Jupiter and Mars. I can see the objects. Gives you actual geographical information that would help you to track it. He didn't mention it, though. Terauchi did not mention Jupiter and Mars at all, yet pointed into the same direction. It's not a debunk, but it's an interesting point, to say the least. Klass states that it is not unusual for an experienced pilot to mistake a bright celestial body for a UFO, nor will it be the last time that this happens. Jupiter was, as I said earlier, only 10 degrees above the horizon, making it appear to the pilot to be roughly at his own 35,000-foot altitude. Klass noted that when the crew was interviewed separately in 1988, their remembrance of the event differed significantly. So here's another point that just puts shade on this. Like, all the crew were interviewed and their stories differed significantly. I mean, at least the pilots in the cockpit should have had like a somewhat consistent story as trained observers, as, people who spend a lot of time in the air. But even those stories differed. And you can read this up as well. And the details are here, right? It's a PDF from Philip J. Klass breaking down the report. So it's all there. It's not Wikipedia claiming this. This is Philip J. Klass claiming it in this JAL Pilots UFO report. According to Klass, the pilot later contradicted what he told flight controllers at the time of the incident. After reviewing transcripts of the radio communications, an FAA spokesman or spokesperson stated that the pilot told the ground controllers that he lost sight of the object after completing the turn. You remember earlier, allegedly, he claimed that they were almost turning with him. They were still in the same spot. But in later interviews, the spokesperson said that Terauchi said the object stayed with him as he turned. The FAA released a data package of the incident, characterizing Terauchi as a UFO repeater, having reported 2 other UFO sightings prior to November 17th and 2 more this past January. So if I understand this correctly, there are 4 times that this pilot already reported objects in the past, and just 2 more sightings in 1 month, in January, that he calls into air traffic control. In a January 11th, 1987 UFO sighting reported by Terauchi in the same general area as where he was now with this flight, he stated he saw irregular pulsating lights and a large black chunk just in front of us. This is a quote, right? This is what he said, allegedly. The FAA radar did not confirm an object, and the event was later determined to have been lights from a small village or from villages being diffused by thin clouds of ice crystals. We've looked at UFO videos like this before, where we can actually see city lights being reflected in ice crystal clouds. So it looks like you get all kinds of pulsating lights and movement actually in the clouds. But what it is, it's a reflection of the lights at ground level. So we can get all kinds of unusual aerial phenomena that are hard to identify through these ice crystals in clouds. But here you have a pilot who pilots a big cargo plane with loads of cargo that's very valuable and pilots a plane that's very important for the reputation of this airline, right? You don't want to have a plane crashed. As an airline, you want to diminish all risks. You want to reduce the risks of anything going wrong with these planes, because not only is the cargo gone, it's huge and causes all kinds of trouble if a plane crashes, besides just the crew just losing their lives. But it is the worst thing that can happen to an airline, that an aircraft of their airline crashes. It has ruined and bankrupted airlines in the past, right? So obviously, at this point, Japan Air is looking very closely at this incident, at this pilot. They're like, here we have a guy, he keeps reporting these things, he just now misidentified a bunch of villages, lights of villages filtered through ice clouds. Let's keep an eye on this guy. Now, Klass notes that Terauchi used the words the spaceship or mothership in his report and claimed that the mothership did not want to be seen. So it is like camouflages itself or something. Terauchi also claimed that we humans will meet them in the near future. Okay? And if I'm a CEO of an airline and I read this statement from one of my pilots, plus he keeps reporting things, I'm like, this man, look, we don't need to fire him, ruin his career, but put him on a desk. He should not pilot a plane that has that level of responsibility towards our brand, towards our clients. We cannot have this person pilot a plane. That's what I would do. If I would be leading this company, give him a desk job. Which links back to what Dr. Stephen Greer said. Like, he was then put onto a desk job, right? Implying that it's because he got too close to the truth or something. But if you read this, brother, it makes a lot of sense, from managing a company and corporation like that point of view. Let's finish this real quick. It says, according to the astronomer and UFO investigator Robert Schäfer, despite Flight 1628 becoming one of the most celebrated cases in recent UFO literature, it turns out there wasn't much to read about Terauchi's report. Schäfer states that the pilot is not an unbiased or objective observer, right? Such an important point. It does seem very much like he wanted to see something. He was looking for it and he loved to tell these stories. And look, I don't know Captain Kenju Terauchi, but it certainly seems that he was that kind of person as a repeat reporter and so on. Science writer Brian Dunning writes that there was nothing extraordinary or unusual that evening, calling Terauchi a fine and competent pilot, which he probably is, right? I'm not putting his piloting skills into question, but was hardly unbiased when it came to alien spaceships, and Flight 1628 is just another unevidenced aerial anecdote. That's good stuff. Wait, I have a button for this. Yeah, not too much. We don't want to go too far with this. Anyway, that is it. That is it. And ironically, all you have to really do is go to the Wikipedia page and read it. It's not even that long, but it's very informative. It breaks it down well. So there you have it. Okay, I'm sorry, but with knowing all this, I am ready to give this case a Debunked. Yeah, we haven't done that in a while. Oh, it feels good. It feels good. If you enjoyed this video, smash like, subscribe, maybe come back for another one. Okay, I have many more videos. I'm very busy at the moment, so I'm not doing that many videos. I apologize, but there will always be more content. We'll always come back. And we're streaming twice a week on Thursdays and Saturdays. You can join our Discord. The link to that is in the description. I'd hope to meet you over there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. Take care out there, and I see you in the next one. I'm out. Bye.